The trick with shame is to realize that it's smoke and mirrors. It's not so much a real entity, it's not a monster. It is a photocopy of a projection of a photocopy of a projection of a monster. It is a monster in the way we perceive it and the way it causes us to react to it, but it itself is not dangerous. And once we pull apart this paper tiger, we can start to see the truth of what it is. And that's really what is required to stand up and stop cowering away from what's inside, and to, with whatever help we need, to begin to look inside. Just look, not change, not fix, nothing. Just turn around and look. You don't even have to go past the barrier. You could start with just seeing the barrier and seeing this huge swath of yourself that you are terrified of, you find dark and scary. Turning around and looking at it is the first step toward awareness, right? And over time, this will allow you to see parts of this whole setup in new ways, and parts of it will come untangled, right? And as you look at it longer and longer, you will see more of the reality. Again, we're not saying that shame is bad and not shame is good. We're saying that shame exists in certain forms, and the way our brains interpret shame and its possible results in the judgments of others creates a false schema inside of the mind that is not itself danger. It's a model of danger built inside of our brains. And we can deconstruct that model by looking at it, finding it, touching it, poking at it, and going, oh, this isn't actually a prison. It's a picture of a prison wall. This isn't a bank vault. This is a curtain. And over time, we start to see these things as less intimidating. We become more emboldened. There still might be a huge swath of our brains that we don't understand, that still causes us trouble. We're still acting out. We're still making mistakes constantly, but it's much less. And we can see ourselves differently. We can stop judging what we're doing. We can stop thinking about everything in terms of what other people are thinking. Slowly but slowly, we get more and more ground, right? And somebody in this situation, it does not have to emotionally eat. They're going to be reconnected to their motivation. Why? Because shame is just not a big enough factor to suppress those things or to impose compulsive behavior. This is a person who can lose weight. This is a person who has the emotional bandwidth to learn how to manage the stress of eating in a calorie deficit, which I'm not saying it's inherently stressful mentally. There's a certain physiological stress that comes along with not eating as many calories as you burn, because your body would just prefer that you always take in the right amount of calories, right? So this is a person who's comfortable in themselves. This is a person who's not spending huge amounts of energy trying to fight this imaginary being, right? Ultimately trying to fight this avatar for exterior things that is really made up of themselves. It's a piece of themselves who's wearing the uniform of the enemy, and we're fighting all the time, like Civil War reenactors, except we're using real bullets and real bayonets. It allows us to slowly take off those separate uniforms and just become one being. And this is why the antidote to shame is not self-love per se, but self-love is the end result of applying the antidote, which is awareness. But if we can just remember that shame is a confusing mass of stuff, but it's confusing because we don't look at it. And it's confusing because we've hidden from it for a long, long time. And if we turn toward our interior world, shame's going to be standing there saying, no, you're not allowed to look in here. And you're allowed to go, okay, you can tell me that, but that's not true. And over time, it's going to allow you to go inside your own mind, to find the structures that are suppressing your motivation and that are causing you to eat things that you don't want to eat when you don't want to eat them, and allow you to dismantle those things, because those structures were also erected in childhood, most likely. And it's only aspects of your adult life that have inflamed them. Oftentimes they were not created as an adult response inside of your brain. Usually they're an inflamed childhood creation, which means they're inherently imaginary. They're inherently symbolic rather than made up of they're real in the sense of how they affect you, but they are somewhat delusional in the sense that they're based in imagination and perception rather than in reality of what's actually happening now. And this is why being grounded and present is so valuable to mental health, because it's what helps you embrace reality, and reality is the antidote to delusion.